Hi, I'm Francesca Lewis, and I'm a program associate with the Shared Use Mobility Center. Today, we're joined by Kendra McGeady and LaTischa LeMasters with the Grand Gateway Economic Development Association to discuss updates to PIC Transportation Program. The PIC Transportation Program was originally developed and launched with funding from the Federal Transit Administration's Integrated Mobility and Innovation Program, or IMI program. And this grant supported PIC transportation as a demonstration project in eastern Oklahoma, which has been able to continue providing service past the pilot phase. So Kendra and LaTischa are here today to talk to us about how the program has evolved since its launch. And thank you both for being here with us today and discussing the updates to PIC. Well, thank you so much again for taking the time to meet with us and kind of share the story about PIC transportation.
Thank you for having us.
So just to get started, we'll have, please introduce yourselves, the Grand Gateway Economic Development Association and the PIC Transportation Program.
Well, thank you so much again, Francesca. My name is Kendra McGeady, and I am the former director of Pella Van Transit. I have just made that transition recently, and I am now the current I was elected to serve as the Cherokee Nation District 11 Tribal Counselor, and I'm also doing consulting. So that is my current role, and I am the brainchild behind the PIC Transportation Project. We started this in 2021, which seems like a really long time ago. And we did do this with the IMI grant funding, is where the original money to get the project going came from. And we have since made it a sustainable project and have added new partners. And so we're very excited to be here today to discuss that. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I am, as Kendra said, she has just moved over to the tribal counselor side. I am the new director of transit here at Pella Van Transit and PIC Transportation. We are so happy to be part of PIC Transportation, and we look forward to seeing what can happen in the future for sure.
Awesome, thank you. So can you tell me a little bit about how PIC Transportation came to be and where the idea started from and how that kind of got off the ground and got running?
Yes, actually, this began really back in 2019, which I really can't believe how long that it's been operational. And we're just so proud of this project. It came from very humble beginnings, to be honest with you. It is a partnership project. And what happened was back in 2019, myself and some of my fellow transit agencies, we had been surveying our ridership to determine what other kind of services they would like to see, what challenges they were facing with our public transit system, and what successes they were seeing within us. And what we found was that across the board, we were all getting the same responses from our rural ridership, that they wanted more spontaneous transportation, that they wanted after hours transportation, they needed better access to longer hours of transit, and people work, and they wanted to see these things. And so as we began to survey and we realized that we were collecting the exact same data, we thought that we needed to do something about it. We felt that we could meet this need. And the IMI grant came out at that time. So we determined that we would form this partnership together. We had considered doing a simple on-demand after-hours system just for Pella Van Transit, which actually covers 4,466 square miles. So we're not a small system at all. We're a large, massive system. But we felt like if we were going to gauge what this really looked like, we really needed to do it on a very broad scale. So we pulled our partners in. We do a couple of innovative partner projects here, PIC being probably the most advanced that we do. But we decided to get together and form a regional on-demand transportation system, and we made the grant ask for that. And that is where the idea for PIC came from. It came from our ridership. They drive our agenda in Northeast Oklahoma.
You noted that, PIC came from this idea of riders needing to be more spontaneous, be able to go after normal hours. how has PIC transportation changed since the beginning of service? Is that still its main goal that it's supporting? Or is there expanded kind of other needs that are being met or goals?
Both, I think, and I'll let Tisha take part of this too. PIG transportation is obviously meeting the need. We're doing our ridership has increased significantly in the last year. In particular, we have changed technologies and done a little bit of advancements there. But the need that we were meeting with PIC was basically we felt like we would meet. Shopping and recreational needs for sure. And we felt like we would be hitting an employment mark. Obviously, there's a lot of shift work in our areas. We are very rural. So we definitely hit the mark on those things. But I think some of the things that we've seen that have been, in my opinion, that have been a little bit surprising is we're meeting some childcare needs. I did not realize that we would be hitting that. We're doing a lot of shopping, which to me says that there was some food disparity going on here. In Oklahoma, people who weren't able to get to the grocery store after hours. And in particular, one of the things that PIC has been so successful for is that we're a completely ADA compliant program. And I want to mention that. But clearly we're meeting the needs in our communities and other communities as well, because the program has expanded and we've brought new partners in. So I feel like we're hitting our marks. Tisha, do you think that there was any we're doing employment and some education and childcare were my main the surprises to me. What are your thoughts on that?
Dialysis centers. We are hitting the dialysis centers, the after hours. Right now, I think we got maybe 4 that we do and a couple in the other transit areas, but the dialysis centers now have the option to stay open later because we are providing a later service. So it has provided definitely a new service to some of the dialysis patients. The hospitals, they're contacting us for after hours releasing discharges. So that's, I mean, those things in general, just they keep us motivated to keep going because that's what we're here for, is to make sure our people get home from the hospital, make sure they get to their dialysis and back home. That is what we're here for. And she said a while ago that we had a ridership increase. This last year, we had a 24% ridership increase in PIC, with Pelivan bringing 51% of that 24%. So we have worked hard on the Pelivan side to make sure that people know we are here for them during the PIC hours.
That was a really good point that Tisha made, and I want to just kind of touch on that just a little bit. The after hours discharge from the hospital, we are rural, as I said, so we have a small rural hospital here. But one of the things that we were seeing, which is why the ADA compliancy piece is so important, is that individuals who we refer to it as an orphan market, Tisha and I do, and individuals who are being released from our hospital after hours with no transportation had no option other than to call the ambulance to take them home, which has a huge cost with that. So we work together with our local hospital to provide those services for individuals because, it's a $3 trip, which makes a big difference. And we are ADA compliant, so we can transport all individuals. But that's a good point, Tisha.
Yeah, we actually also invoice the hospital for those trips. So they don't even have the $3, the hospital that pays the $3 versus the what, 10,000 for an ambulance. So,
but we do get reimbursed for the trip.
Yes.
How did that partnership start with the hospital and like the dialysis centers? Is that something like that came from the riders, or that you went out to them and made that partnership happen?
Well, when we started PIC, the idea being the after hour service, dialysis is a big thing in 5311 service. We all know that. We provide a lot of that. We have riders who get up and drivers who get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And we felt like if we're going to be operating until 9 or 10 o'clock at night, that these dialysis providers can stay open later for us. So basically it just, it's something that just arose. We didn't really know that we would be addressing that need, but as we were operating this after hours service, we thought, why not? So we went and met with some of our providers. Now I would like to see an Oklahoma network, especially as PIC continues to grow. we would like to see an after hours dialysis network in the state of Oklahoma, because we can meet that need with our rural providers providing this after hours service. But I think that that was something that we didn't necessarily focus on when we were writing the grant for PIC, but it just is something that unfolded in front of us that, hey, you know, if they have staff that's willing to stay on and work later hours, we're open. So why do we have to pick somebody up at 3 o'clock in the morning when we could actually pick them up at 6:15 at night?
Are you collecting data on like different trip purposes, and like identifying these, you know, education and childcare trips?
Yeah, when we signed up for VIA, we made sure that they built into the system that we could track that information.
What kind of considerations went into that process? Lessons learned in that RFP and procurement process?
We learned a lot of lessons through the RFP and procurement process. Being conscious of the fact that these are vendors that work in the transit industry. When we did the procurement, we wanted it to be very specific to PIC transportation. We also in the RFP included a daytime operation for rural providers or tribal providers or urbans or anybody else. But we originally were a route match client. This is where this all started. We were a route match client. And so our intent when we wrote the grant was that we would be using route match technology. And as you know, Uber purchased route match during that time frame. So we did utilize the Uber technology. It did not work well for us. The back end of it was a nightmare. Rider facing, it's beautiful, it's efficient, it's great. But as you know, rural transit providers, 5311 providers, we are married to reporting. And so there was a lot of back end stuff that just wasn't available to us. It was a big headache. I know that Tisha put in hundreds of hours manually entering data and things like that. So once we made the switch to VIA technology, which is who we use, we have found it to be, I mean, we had to go through growing pains to get to where we needed to be, but VIA, like Tisha said, has worked very well with us. We're a very advanced system at Pelivan. Well, I think I'm getting into the Pelivan operation and I need to keep that separate. What they've done for PIC has been great. It's more geared towards rural providers and not just a public facing technology. And I think that our ridership has increased so much because it's more geared towards, you know, rural transit. What would you say, Tish?
I
We learned a
agree. I
lot.
agree.
We learned a
Yeah,
lot. The technology has to be right.
yeah.
The technology
Mhm.
has to be right, or you are going to find yourself in an absolute disaster.
You know, one of the main things that I learned through that is ask questions, because it may not seem relevant at the moment, but down the line, that question may be something that's, you know, feels like life or death to you whenever you're doing the data. So that is definitely something we learned, was to make sure to ask all the questions, because you don't want to have to go back 6 months later and have to reevaluate or weight your technology. So
And I think that there are always going to be, we're very teched out. We have never been afraid of technology at Pelivan Transit. I've changed technology 2 or 3 times since we were there in the 10-year period that I was there. You can't be afraid of technology, but and some of it is going to unfold. You're going to learn things as you go. But my biggest uh, suggestion or advice to anyone who's getting into any kind of a grant like this would be to talk to somebody who's been through it before. We actually went out and tested the technology. We kind of did some recon and with some of the providers that had supplied RFP responses. I think that's a great idea to go out and fiddle with the technology yourself, take the trip, go set it up. We did a lot of research on that, and I think that's the most important thing that you can do, because no technology is going to be perfect, but I think that finding a partner who is willing to support your vision is very important, because I can say that VIA transportation has grown with PIC. They have grown with Pelivan. We've just added new partners in. They're growing with us, and they've been great partners to work with. If there's something that hasn't been available to us, we've worked through it, and they've implemented new pieces to this technology for us that's going to benefit rural and tribal providers across the nation. Anyone who uses the technology, we just had to be the pioneering women, didn't we, Tish?
right. That's
So
right.
So you touched on some growing pains
Mhm.
throughout that process of like the new VIA, getting used to them, and kind of just wondering, how did you get through kind of these growing pains? Is there anything that um, any lesson learned takeaway that helped you get through something particular?
I think our clue was to tell the drivers, tell our dispatchers 6 months. Just give it 6 months. That's all you got to do. And honestly, we had complaints at that time about different things about the AI technology is never going to work. It's not going to work. Our ridership's going to go down. But as you've heard, our ridership is increased. We are able to provide a lot more transportation now if they just gave it 6 months, and they did. And they are very happy with the programming now.
Yes, and you just have to lead through it. It's difficult. You have a big fear. In our case, I'll be very transparent. We had a big fear of a mass exodus coming. Technology can be scary enough. Here we had Route Match, and then we went into Uber, and now we're changing again to Via. I'm very pleased that we kept our team together, though, because like Tisha said, you give them a deadline, you encourage them through that, and you just have to lead. You have to lead through it, period. And just walk them through and be of good faith. Even if you are, it's a challenging time. Technology is scary. Your riders are upset, your drivers are upset, your boss is upset, everybody's, but you just have to get through it. And we allowed our drivers to be very engaged. We asked them questions about what they wanted to see with the technology. You got to get them bought in. That's the key. Is you have to have them bought in. And I think that without hearing from 52 different little voices and everybody, you need to get some collective opinion on because it really affects them on a day-to-day basis. And they use this technology and they've helped us to develop it. And also, you have to keep everybody cool because as you roll it out, you're teaching the technology. So you're going to have these little one or two people that want to do it their own way, and you just have to, that's when you just have to sick Tish on them, and she just has to tell them no because you're teaching it. So if you can get them to get through that 6 months and they see that the technology is beginning to learn, they love it. And like I said, 51% increase in ridership is no joke. So
Also thinking about drivers and operations staff, during the first phase or the IMI portion of PIC, there was a kind of a struggle to keep everything running at capacity with the driver shortage. Um, Wondering, like, the progress of that, if PIC has been able to recruit and retain more drivers and address this issue, and if so, what strategies, were used to kind of address this?
I think one of the things that we've been able to do that's really kind of separate of this is we were able to give a driver increase to our drivers, which is a big deal. But yes, we got this big grant, $1.5 million, and we were so excited. And literally the next week, the entire planet shut down. Okay, so we had a lot of troubles. We had the money, we had a lot of issues. So we struggled a lot with finding drivers. I mean, I think that the original intent was to operate in 22 communities, I think, and we currently operate in 18. Is that right, Tish? I think we're in 18 right now, and we were in 15 at the time, but we didn't give up. What we did was we just adjusted. This is transit, you have to roll with it. So when we had 4 drivers planned for one community, we rolled out with one. We rolled out with what we had. We hired drivers specifically for this operation. And then also Tisha came up with some great ideas to be flexible with our drivers within our Pelivan operation. We do have to pay some overtime. But you know what? It's part of it. It keeps people moving. The driver shortage is not something that we can really do a lot about. We've done the best that we can with being flexible with our drivers. We have a very flexible system, so you can work from 8 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night at Pelivan. And there's, I'll let Tisha talk about some of the ways that she's been creative with flexibility there to maintain a driving force for PIC. But also, there's some really good drivers out there, Francesca. And I think that once they see that they're meeting this great need and they find out that they have these regular riders on these after-hour services as well, it just becomes part of who they are, and they're happy to work those extra hours. But Tish did have to do a little creative planning with them. So
Yeah, we've definitely had to do some split shifts,
Mhm.
just to make sure we kept the drivers under the amount of hours they should, but still were able to fill all of our services. And I mean, one driver may take somebody to like Muskogee, which is an hour and a half away, and then maybe come back or even just stay there and just relax for 3 or 4 hours and then run pick that evening. And that's something we just had to really look at. And as far as the retention and stuff, during COVID, it was so hard to hire people
Mhm.
that we kind of hired almost whatever we could get. And we learned the hard way on that. But now we have so many people coming to us wanting jobs because they've got a heart of service. And that's the biggest part, is making sure your people have a heart of service, because their concern, most of them, is not the overtime. I'm sure it's a great perk, but their concern is the riders and making sure their riders are getting where they need to go when they need to go.
Well, that's great to hear. That's really awesome. And I feel like that's a definitely a reflection of, the whole program and your lead on that as
And we've
putting
had to
that
do a
type of
little bit of
environment.
adjustment in different communities. You know what I mean? We've had to, it's not been without its struggles.
Yeah.
There are times, where we've had to go through a couple weeks period, and we always advertise this because, the reliability and the efficiency of pick is very important. And that can be challenging when you're not the only one running it, because we have a lot of partners. We have more partners now. So everyone has to do their part.
I want to talk a little bit about this transition from the FTA grant into no more FTA grant, permanent service without that. Um, and kind of what kinds of opportunities, limitations, and strategies did you implement during that time and now?
Well, our pick is really a cool project, and our part of it is a little bit different than everyone else's, because one of the things is that when we got the IMI grant, we overmatched it significantly because we wanted to be highly competitive. So there was a little bit more of an operational cost to this when it was in the IMI period, if you can believe that. So, but we had the 2 years to build the program. And one of the things that we do, for Pellvan, we are the lead agency, so we are, supported by our partners. They pay a monthly, cost for us to dispatch their system. They pay us for their technology. So that's one of the ways that we subsidize our PIC program. But, the cost of operating PIC is not much. I mean, I think that it cost us, what, Tish, was it around 80 last year, which is really a low overhead for that. And what we've done to continue to help support that project is that we are, number one, our community matches have gone up in all of our communities. We have a local match from all the communities that we provide service to. We were able to go to them and say, hey, we're now driving your economy after hours. And so, and of course, the data, it matters. And when you can take data to these places and say, we're bringing this many people, I'm just going to use Walmart as an example, since they like run the world. So we'll just go ahead. They're in every community, and you already know that. I mean, you go to Walmart and you say, I've brought, 100,000 people here in the last year. How about giving me one of your community grants for $5,000? Or how about we form a partnership? So those are ways that you can subsidize those operations. The data really matters. Our community match has gone up. I know that our industrial park in one of our communities is really, booming right now, and we intend to meet with them to talk about transporting that shift work. We can't meet that 11 o'clock release time, but there's always, opportunity for growth there as well. But so those are some of the ways that we maintain sustainability in the PIC, partnership. Of course, the hospital, we have them pay for their trips, through, again, the technology is a big piece of it, and being able to create those back end billing situations is incredibly helpful. But those are some of the things that we've done.
And kind of on PIC's partners, this huge variety of partners, local partners, tribal partners, and operators. How does that collaboration continued, after the IMI grant, and what does that continued collaboration look like over time?
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, we'll both take this one, because we are really very proud to say that, I'm actually getting a little emotional right now. We got this grant, and, we had 4 partners originally, Pelavan, Inca, Cimarron, and Kaiboys pick,
Mhm.
and then one of our partners did not rejoin after the IMI. But since then, we have grown it. So when we intended it, we intended to bring in new partners, but you never really know if you're going to be able to do that or not. And we are now. So I think that the dedication, if you are going to get into a partner project, it is not easy. There are a lot of barriers that have to be broken down, in particular with a program like this, where we are responsible for billing people every month. They are responsible for paying us in. Um, but we decided in the beginning that we were in this thing together and that we were going to stick together, that we were meeting a need, and that it wasn't about any individual transit agency. It was about PIC as a single branded service. And it was about moving people after hours. It was about single men and women not having to take off early from the bank to take their child to Walmart. That's what this was about. This was about an after hours dialysis system. This was about getting people to and from the casinos to employment. We don't do a lot. We don't pay for trips that go back and forth just to go get. It was about advancing life and providing a better life for our ridership. And I think that with the challenges that we went through with receiving the IMI grant, getting this huge grant, COVID shutting the planet down, Uber falling apart, all of those things, it just really brought us together. It brought us closer together. And as we continued to fight to keep this program alive, and we began to get these little tidbits from people saying, you're transporting my sister and she's in a wheelchair and she's never been able to get out after 5 o'clock. And now she goes whenever she wants to. When you have little groups of little elders who go have dinner every night, you know what I mean? You make a difference when someone can get to urgent care after hours. We just decided to stick it out and to determine that the service was more important than anything. So I think having that dedication to the ridership and their request is what has really kept PIC going. It's proven itself so much that we just went live with a brand new partner yesterday that wasn't a part of the grant that ODOT helped us pay for. So we have buy-in from tribes and rural providers and the state DOT and so I get a little fluffy when I talk about that stuff. I'm not probably as technical as I need to be, but it really is about just sticking it out together and putting the ridership first.
With Kendra, me and her have always had the motto, why not us? And we took that into PIC when we did it. I mean, why not? Why not be able to do this after hours in our small little communities where they have never seen anything like this before? Why not? So that's kind of what we've done, is just make sure even our community leaders, our local leaders, like, they understand we're there, we're going to fight and make sure that it gets done. We're going to make sure our riders get their ridership. So it's been honestly kind of magical to see over the years, like how it's grown, how it's expanded. And like she said, we had one join the 30th. So it was Monday night, and we have 3 more in the hopper waiting to go over the next probably 9 to 12 months. And then 2 more people that want to join, 2 more transits that want to join. So PIC is just going to continue to grow. And as it grows, we'll have to assess and see if we need to hire any more dispatch in the call center. But I mean, to have 4 partners in the beginning and then the one leave, it kind of was disheartening to see them leave. But now we've got 4 that's already signed up and ready to go. We're just slowly getting them started. So it's pretty powerful to see that it is seen as something in such a way that our ridership is increasing, our people are increasing, our transits are increasing. It's pretty awesome to see.
Yeah, the bottom line is we've changed the face of rural transportation in the state of Oklahoma,
Exactly.
period. Let's just call it what it is, Tisha. Let's just go ahead and
Yeah.
pat ourselves on the back, because we have. We have changed after we've changed rural transit in the state of Oklahoma, and we're beyond proud of that. And I mean, PIC transportation service area, I haven't even reviewed it, but right now, I mean, it sits at something like 30,000 miles. I mean, you know what I mean? When we get these new partners in, it's a big deal. Even I know that one tribe, now they are not joining PIC, so to speak, but they are doing the after hours, which to us, hey, we'll take it. You're not in PIC. That's okay. You're still providing the service that we set forth. And we're very proud of that. We've changed things, and we feel good about it.
Well, absolutely. Congrats on the new partner from the 30th and the next partners lined up. That's amazing. And you definitely have, changed the landscape of rural transit. And it's amazing. So I'm really
And Francesca, keep in mind, these are people who didn't use technology that are now all of a sudden on demand. I mean, like Charla Sloan,
Yeah.
who's just our beloved partner. I mean, she does pen and paper in the daytime. She went from pen and paper in the day to route match to Uber to Via in the night. Like she's all through COVID. I mean, it's really a great testament to what can be done, period. You can do it. It can be done, you know.
Can you talk a little bit more about the relationship and collaboration with the state DOT, and
Yeah.
how what that type of support is like?
Sure. The state DOT is wonderful. We are very fortunate in the state of Oklahoma that we work really well with our DOT. Basically, I'll just tell you that what happened. We got the grant. We had a huge cash match on it. It was massive. And it was going to be a challenge to meet that cash match as it was, Francesca. Like we were staying awake at night and trying to figure this out, but we wanted this grant. And so anyways, we received it, we got it. So we had a $1.5 million grant and a $1.9 million match. And all of a sudden COVID shut down all of our contractual service. We had nothing. Everything was gone. So I just decided to reach out to ODOT. So I called Deputy Director Don Sullivan at the time and Tim Gatz, who was the Secretary of Transportation at the time and still remains the Executive Director of ODOT. And I just I told them what had happened. I told them where we were. I told them that this pick was going to die on the vine before it even got started. And it was up to them. They were our only hope. And what can you do for us? And they wrote us a check for $500,000 to pay the match on that grant for all the partners. And I'm eternally grateful to ODOT for that because it gave us the opportunity to prove ourselves. And we did, and we proved ourselves. So when a rural grant, and I apologize that I can't remember which one it was, but we can get this information to you and send it to you. 2 years ago, a rural grant opportunity came out for us to expand PIC. So we applied for the grant and ODOT met the $90,000 cash match for us to bring in the new partners. So I think that having a vested partnership with your state DOT, it matters. They have to let you fly, they have to let you fall, but they also have been so supportive of us. Without our state DOT, there would be no PIC, period. So again, and like I said, they met the $90,000 cash match to bring new partners in. I look to see them do that again. So having that buy-in, also everything is eligible through the 5311 program. The technology, funding the call center employees because we do MOUs with our partners. Man, when I talk about PIC, I'm like, this is really cool.
It
Now
is,
that I've
yeah.
kind of like stepped back a little bit, I'm like, wow, I can't believe we did all this. But everything is 5311 eligible. We worked with ODOT through that. So it's just a really cool program. But you have to have the buy-in of your state DOT. We would not be where we are without the buy-in of our state DOT, period.
And we talked a little bit about kind of that peer-to-peer in a forum of like being able to talk with other agencies, participating in the program or participating in similar programs, conducting similar initiatives in their own communities. So during the IMI program, there was a kind of a space to talk to other grantees about their projects. Have you found other forums or resources to kind of keep up to date with what's going on and trends in microtransit and rural transit around the country?
Well, I have because I serve on the SWATA. I'm the chair of the SWATA board, so I keep current with those things, and then CTAA. But so that would be how I keep current with all the trends and what's taking place. What about you, Tish?
Honestly, with Kendra being part of all the boards and me just now getting into the position I'm in, I haven't done a whole lot yet. So I'm
She's
excited
going
to see,
to.
yes, I'm excited to see what part of all the forums and everything that I can get part of now. And I'm excited to see where we can do this. But yeah, Kendra's done most of that here the last forever. I mean,
Yeah. And I'll
Yeah.
continue to do those things because I will be speaking. I'm just not the director at Pelivan anymore. My time in transit is far from over.
That's
And
right.
so I have a couple of appointments coming up with some different states and things like that. But we're always more than willing to come and share our experiences with everyone. One of the things that we have always operated on, and I know Tisha will continue to operate on the same vein, is that there are no secrets in transit. There should not be, anyways. What's good for one can often be good for another. And we didn't go through all of this so that we couldn't make other people not be successful. That's why we did it, was to pave the way so that other projects, other states can see small rural communities transporting after hours as well.
Is there any, like one line advice or just any point that you would give to other communities that are, interested or looking to start a program like this, like start from scratch, like you guys did?
Tisha shared you. What we did was we created that hashtag, why not us? Because we have to believe that, someone was going to get the money. I know this sounds a little cliche, but you just have to be brave. It's scary. You have to put yourself out there. You need to really don't be a solution in search of a problem. Don't do that to your system. Make sure that you have a problem that needs to have a solution to, and then go for it. Be brave, get out there. But if you don't ask, you'll never do it. And so, I believe in partnerships too. I think Tish and I have proven that you can go a long way together. Things are getting very expensive as well. These match for these grants is going to get more and more. And I think that these partnership opportunities are really good. And I hope to see the FTA funding a lot more of them.
You talked about your kind of lineup of new partners joining and increased ridership and a really positive direction that PIC is going towards. But we're just wondering, is there any like ongoing challenges or any barriers that you're still looking to kind of work through that are like kind of in the line next?
Staffing is always going to be an issue. It's an issue across the nation. And we're honestly pretty full here at Pelivan and PIC. So, but staffing will always be an issue. Funding's always going to be something that we're going to have to watch and keep an eye out for. It's never ending. You always got to be there to advocate for it. You've always got to be there to fight for it. So that is definitely two of the big areas. And technology, it changes every single day. So keeping on top of the technology, making sure we don't get behind on anything will always be something that we're going step by step to keep up with. So those are the three areas for me that are just always going to be a barrier and a challenge, but yet something that we are ready to fight for and ready to be there and make sure happens.
I have some concerns about some of the things that are going on in the federal government right now and what public transit is going to look like moving forward. But again, Tisha's nailed it. Staffing is always going to be a challenge. We don't use Medicaid to pay. We don't do Sooner Ride in the evenings. We do a little bit. We're starting to do that, but we could see some big challenges there moving forward. We all know that. So I think that the main thing for that is just to be prepared, to have your solid foundation, to know that there are creative partnerships out there that can be implemented. Tish and I are constantly brainstorming. We'll just be like driving down the road, and be like, hey, I have this great idea. What about this? What about this? And I just throw everything out there and see what sticks. I would think that just continually trying to evaluate and establish new and creative partnerships with your communities is vital to the success of this kind of an operation.
Well, thank you so much again for taking the time to meet with us and kind of share the story about PIC transportation.